Travis Wayne Goodsell. So, with being the 1st of March, we're going to combine Trump ICE 2025 with an overview of the Jewish calendar, Adar month, with Mars. This is expected to be a very long video. So, we start off with Trump luring Zelensky to the White House so that he can attack him and refuse to have any kind of deal. Everybody knew that was coming because they covered it in the press back in the first administration. Remember, Trump got impeached for it. Yeah, we'll provide you with the aid that I stopped from coming to you if you do me a favor, though. Did Zelensky forget about that? Did the press forget about it? Yes. The press are now all about reaction videos. Reaction news! That was not cool. What the hell was that? Flashing my camera. I purposely had it on, not recording, to eliminate any cyber terrorism this morning. And here we are, already starting off on a bad omen. Next you'll see my head turn all the way around. And so Trump obviously sides with Putin on everything. In case you forgot the first administration. Like all the press forgot. Oh my God, this is helping Putin. What a shock. We never saw this coming. Since the last time we covered this, when we were shocked that we never saw this coming. Since the last time we covered it, and we're shocked that we never saw this coming. People purposely are in denial of factual information that came previously. And this is a very dangerous thing that is being perpetuated by our government and by the press and by those in positions of trust, even religious trust. And revisionism ends up filling the gap that is maliciously ignored. And so, October 7th, Hamas conducted a massive terrorist strike against Israel. And the whole Islamic world cheered. To this day, Islam ignores October 7th. They do not see that as an instigation. They can't. They claim to be the victims, don't they? The reason why Islam claims to be victims and that they deny October 7th is because they go all the way back to after World War II, when the United Nations granted Israel a home in Israel. Islam calls this an occupation of their land. But again, Islam is in denial of their own history, let alone the Israeli Jewish history. All because they have an agenda. And so they have to deny truth. They have to deny history. They have to deny causation. in order to claim victimhood, to claim to be just in their actions, and then to vilify Israel. And so you can independently talk about the origins with an Islamist who will tell you, yeah, Muhammad. Because their whole life is based on Muhammad. And they'll tell you that Muhammad was around 600, and that they may know that he was from Saudi Arabia, and that his Islamic group was formed in Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is not Palestine, not Gaza, not the West Bank, not even Egypt. Saudi Arabia is in Saudi Arabia. And if you even go back further, they're Babylonian. When the Persians conquered Babylon, there was a group who fled into Saudi Arabia, and thus would become Islam in 600, almost 1,000 years later. These historical facts are crucial for government leaders if they're going to have talks to establish peace, to have trade, and relations of other kinds. Kind of essential that our government leaders know the truth about history of the world leaders that they're encountering. It's kind of important that our government leaders, for example, not blame America for slavery in pre-America. The blame needs to belong to the Brits who brought the slaves to the American continent. And that it was the Declaration of Independence and the Revolutionary War, with the establishment of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, that would then pave the way for the stopping of slavery. Still not 100% there, but the formation of America began the liberation of black slaves. And for blacks to ignore this fact of history is a major error that causes harm and damage. And so, church history. Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I've had too many Mormons over the years who come claiming that the current administration practice and tradition was in existence under Joseph Smith. To claim that the manner of succession was originated from Joseph Smith to approve Brigham Young. Again, wrong. Such Mormons don't even bother to do their research on their own religion. And nothing is more blatant than the type of religion itself, which is the core seed from which everything else branches out of. Because the current membership use as their core seed that were Christian. Yet Christians do not acknowledge the church as Christian. But Mormons don't get it. Christians, also in denial of their origins, began with Roman Emperor Constantine and the first creed that created their religion. That is the core seed of Christianity, from which everything else branches out from. That first creed establishes everything for their religion, from which everything else branched out from, and which it has now fallen because of all the myriad organized religions and individuals who go it alone with their own personal Jesus, fulfilling Daniel's prophecy of the iron feet mingled with clay. If iron legs were Rome, Rome is the iron in the feet. But then there's clay. You got to understand, the book of Daniel was written before the creation of Christianity by Roman Emperor Constantine, as it was written during the Roman period. And so the Jewish author who wrote the book of Daniel during the Roman period time already knew the other metals and which nation they belonged to, except he didn't know about Christianity, and yet he wrote about it. That's right. The Bible is Jewish. The whole Bible is Jewish because it was written before the creation of Christianity. And so none of it is to be interpreted as Christian. It is not Trinity Jesus in the Gospels or New Testament, because the Christians are responsible for that. And that act is what's called racist bigotry. It is abominable, deplorable, awful, inhumane to deny truth, to blame the Jews when the Jews were the original authors. And so the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints claims that everything of the first creed is correct, replacing the Jews, except for the nature and character of Jesus. So we're non-Trinitarian. And that's why Christians don't accept Mormons as Christian. Mormons practice the pagan rituals, theology, multiple gods, Heavenly Mother, temple worship. These are not Christian rituals. They are pagan, as Christians call them. And for Mormons to demand that Christians accept Mormons as Christian is not going over so well, because Mormons are playing dumb. whether on purpose or because of the brainwashing of the leaders of the church. And the biggest mistake that Mormons make, even if Mormons leave, whether they left on their own will or whether Trump kicked them out after sabotaging him through excommunication, disfellowshipment, or shunning, the Mormon shunning. It's Johnny. Is that Mormons all blame Joseph. That they assume that what is currently practiced was practiced by Joseph. What the church confesses to is what Joseph practiced. Might as well be a denier of October 7th. Section 3, verse 16. Joseph Smith is told that the Bible is Jewish, not Christian. And that the Book of Mormon, likewise, would be Jewish, not Christian. And so anybody who is literate can read the Book of Mormon for themselves, learning of the Jews, pre-Babylonian captivity Jewish Egyptians. And so nothing in the Book of Mormon is literal history. Because remember, the first creed of Christianity created the Bible of the Jews as literal history about Jesus. And thus why they put the Jewish scriptures that they approved of in chronological order that Christians called the Bible. So 2 Nephi 29, a Bible. We have a Bible and we need no more Bible. What, thank you the Jews for the Bible you received. Stole and altered, according to the first creed of Christianity. And so everybody likewise makes the same mistake with the Book of Mormon. There is no Nephi. There is no Lehi. There is no Mosiah. There is no Alma. There is no Amulek. There is no King Noah. There is no Lamanites, Nephites, Jaredites, Jacobites, Mormon, Moroni, Ether, Jared. None of them are real. Because it's the learning of the Jews. And for Mormons to do this to their own claimed keystone and founder, that was, is the worst of human behavior, beyond denialism. This is not even acknowledging who you are and where you came from. And so the question is, are Mormons brainwashed? Are they just stupid and illiterate? Are they purposely dumb by refusing to study? Or do they know full well that they are lying and denying and the enemy of man? And so knowing that the source of Scripture is Jewish, including the Book of Mormon and Joseph Smith, you need to know the Jewish religion. Because you can't have an acceptance of the religion being Jewish, but then throw in Christian or Islamic branches. The seed of Judaism, pre-Babylonian captivity, does not produce Islam, does not produce Christianity, because the creation of Islam was Muhammad. The creation of Christianity was Constantine. A completely new seed to produce the plant of the religion. To combine metaphor and parable and all into one with the truth, to give you the explanation at the same time. And so, what is the theology of the pre-Babylonian captivity Jewish Egyptians? The Christ. It's human. They believe in a human being as their Christ. Not Trinity, not even non-Trinitarian. Human. And so the Jews who wrote all of the Bible were prophesying, giving future predictions of the coming of their Christ. And they gave us dates of when he would come, called Revelation. So the book of Revelation contains dates, of which Joseph Smith, in the Joseph Smith translation, corrects one of them. Chapter 12, verses 1, 2, and 5. Gets moved to verse 3. Which means Joseph knows the date. He knows the prophecies. And so when I went over section 42 with you yesterday, I went over it with you in the learning of the Jews, not Mormon Christian. Because Mormon Christian, no man knows the day or the hour. We're waiting for Jesus. Nelson promised us. We're going to ignore definition of in the coming day being less than a week, because the prophet has to be true at all cost. When automatically they're false prophets, because they're not preaching the Jewish religion for the Book of Mormon and Joseph Smith. Now, if they want to go and be Christian, they have to hand over the Book of Mormon and Joseph Smith. But they have no intention of doing so since last year. They bought everything but the bones of Joseph and Hiram from the community of Christ. They're in full replacement mode. Full revisionist history mode, and don't give a damn about the founder's bones. It's all to promote their big lie. And so knowing that they're false prophets and that they're lying and deceiving you and stealing your money, then you can understand the threat that they pose, and why I cover church news videos for you. gotten a comment since that video. Let's see. There's the one about Idaho chick finding out that she now has to provide the soil from Idaho to transport it to Zion. Are you kidding me? I just want things to work, and the guys who make this stuff, they never test it. They never use it for their own systems. Because their systems, it works great for them. Amazing how it sucks for the rest of the people who are forced to use it. And so ANWMS recognizes how Bednar, by being with Islamic terrorists, remember? Origins is laundering money because Deutsche Bank is failing. It's been exposed as the hub for laundering money. And the crypto coin also is being used to launder money through. We have not learned yet whether or not the church is involved with cryptocurrency stock trading or payments. But if they're doing business deals with terrorists, the terrorists are going to want to use cryptocurrency because you can hide the financial documents of the transactions. But the big location is among the richest in the world, Abu Dhabi. And so, yeah, of course, they want in Abu Dhabi because there's great wealth to be had in Abu Dhabi. And then the church claiming to help the poor, except it's not just in the backyard, it's also the front yard and in the cellar dungeon and in the attic, in the living room and in the kitchen. They neglect the poor. They leave Mormons, especially Utah Mormons, to fend for themselves. And there's a massive increase since last year of homeless persons in Utah. Mormons. The church sabotaged Mormons to be homeless. But knowing the facts, knowing the truth, not being in denial that this church is fraudulent, false. Therefore, you can see clearly what the church news articles are telling you. And that's why Mormons will never accept my videos. They see the title, they're offended. They see the awesome thumbnail picture meme, they're offended because it's not faith promoting. Mormons cannot handle and accept criticism. Book of Mormon says Jewish. Anti-Mormon, anti-Christ, apostate, religious freedom. Mormons can't do that. You do it, but you can't. That makes you the enemy. People look at you and go, oh my God, these guys are illiterate. These guys are a cult group, brainwashed by their leaders. They're drinking Kool-Aid. And Mormons don't like that. But there are consequences, Mormons. If you don't want to be called a cult group, stop acting like a cult group. If you don't want to be treated as the enemy of mankind, stop being the enemy of mankind. And Mormons go, no, we're innocent. We're victims. Just like Islam. You can't deny the truth. And so the scriptures prophesy of the enemy, the great and abominable church, in the context of their Jewish Christ. The first one is Messiah ben Joseph. Messiah, Christ, ben, son of, descendant of, Joseph of Egypt. This Messiah ben Joseph is to set up the religion, set up temple rituals, be gathering people to the religion, but then be faced with an enemy that wants to destroy them, and does. The enemy murders Messiah ben Joseph, takes over the religion, changes it. The rituals in the temple are altered. Women are now prostitutes to the religion. And so comes the promise of the big Messiah, the Messiah of Messiahs for the Jews, Messiah ben David. All of these are humans. The enemy is human. Messiah ben Joseph is human. Messiah ben David is human. Not Trinity, not non-Trinity. Human. This human is to be born within the religion that is usurped. Messiah ben Joseph erects the religion. The enemy insurrects the religion. Messiah ben David resurrects the religion. Because Messiah ben David, or Joseph, is dead, buried in the ground. And so the resurrection from the dead is of the religion of the founder, restoring what was usurped. Jacob. And he sets in order the temple. He gathers the scattered original membership to Zion, New Jerusalem. That's it. And so, the Book of Mormon, if it's literally Jewish, which means it's not literal history, is prophesying of the future Messiah ben Joseph and Messiah ben David. Joseph Smith has to tell you about Messiah ben Joseph and Messiah ben David. Otherwise, you know that the Book of Mormon is false, because I don't see Messiah ben David anywhere. Don't see him. He's also known as the man like Moses from Deuteronomy 18 verse 15, because of the keys of the gathering for the Exodus. Christians turned it into Passion Week for the Christians. Can't do that. The Gospels are talking about the Jewish Exodus. giving you the day and the hour of his coming. So sure enough, Book of Mormon in 2 Nephi chapter 3 verse 5. Wherefore Joseph of Egypt, Lehi talking to his son Joseph, not literal history, prophecy, revelation, through story form. Truly saw our day. Seership. See. Saw. Future. Seer. You see this in 6. Joseph truly testified, saying, a seer shall the Lord God, my God, raise up. Hey, there's the Genesis 18 verse 15. Verse 7. Yea, Joseph truly said, thus saith the Lord unto me, a choice seer will I raise up. And so it's out of the fruit of Joseph of Egypt's loins. That's porn, in case you didn't know. Or you can call it sex ed, if you use the correct interpretation. Everybody knows the devil's plan of happiness is to cover up and hide. Not just women's bodies, but all of your crimes and sins. And that is the doctrine in the temple, with the keystones of the inverted pentagram of Lucifer on them. Blatantly obvious to anybody who is not in denial. And so, there's Messiah ben Joseph for you, right there in the Book of Mormon, chapter 3. And so Mormons need to be looking for him. They need to know him by his fruits, as a prophet, seer, revelator, translator, having the key of Moses. Those of you who've been following know exactly what I'm talking about. Section 107, verses 91 and 92. Joseph Smith tells the newly formed quorum of 12 apostles and their 70 about the organizational structure at the top. And again, the duty of the president of the office of the high priesthood, which is Joseph Smith, in case you forgot, in case you don't catch on, is to preside over the whole church and to be like unto Moses, the Jewish Christ. The keys of the president of the church of Joseph Smith is the keys of the Christ. That right there helps explain why Joseph Smith did not put Jesus Christ in the name of his church. That on April 6th, 1830, he named the Church of Christ, the Jewish Christ. Him. So is he Messiah ben David? Well, if he is, then who was Messiah ben Joseph? All know the answer, right? Everybody in the church knows the answer. Verse 15. And his name shall be called after me, Joseph. And it shall be after the name of his father, Joseph Jr. Wait. Joseph is a junior. So run the test. Did Joseph Smith set up the religion? Yes. Did Joseph Smith set up the temple? Yes. Did Joseph Smith get assassinated by an enemy? Yes. Ta-da! Messiah ben Joseph is Joseph Smith Jr. Thus, the enemy is Brigham Young. Who altered the temple, put in endowment, covenant paths, underwear, which is also the symbol of your sex abuse of prostituting Mormon women. Just as the Jews prophesied for the coming of their Christ, who would be a Mormon now, because he comes through the insurrected religion of Brigham Young. It's right here in verse 5. Joseph Smith is to be remembered in the covenants of the Lord of the coming of Messiah ben David. That the Messiah should be made manifest, he's human, unto Mormons in the latter days. Not the Roman period time. The Book of Mormon is easy to understand. And so, as you keep on reading, you're going to find out in verse 19 that the words that Joseph Smith will write, whoops, wait a minute, where is it? Where is it? Fruit of the loins will write, and the other right. There it is, 12. Wherefore the fruit of thy loins, Messiah ben Joseph, shall write. We have the Doctrine and Covenants, Pearl of Great Price. We have other documents that Brigham Young refused to publish because it exposes him as the enemy. And the fruit of the loins of Judah shall write. Messiah ben David. This Mormon is also going to write just like Joseph Smith wrote. They were unaware of social media, that he would be doing YouTube videos for you, because he is also the fulfillment of section 107, verses 91 and 92. He will have the keys of Moses. He will have the fruits of seer, prophet, revelator, translator of Paleo, Hebrew, and Egyptian, which means he has to decipher them. He's going to write the decipherment for you, so that you will know him and not be deceived by false prophets of Brigham Young. Real simple. And this is a revision of the prophecy in Ezekiel 37. Because everybody assumes it's the Bible and the Book of Mormon. No. It's the Bible correctly translated from the Egyptian documents. He will do that too. Because Joseph Smith tried it. That's why we have all these different creation stories. Joseph kept trying to correct the Bible. But Messiah ben David will do it, and he will write it, and it will be made available for all Mormons to know and not be deceived by false prophets of the false idol God Christ Jesus, even though they claim it's non-Trinitarian. It is against the Jewish religion, the Jewish law of Deuteronomy, the Jewish commandments about Messiah ben David. No other Christ but him. Jesus is another Christ. He's false automatically. Islam, false automatically. This is who Mormons are supposed to be looking for. He is not for the Jews. He is not for the Christians. He is not for Islam. He's only for Mormons. And the Book of Mormon tells us that he will be rejected and Mormons will try to murder him as they wait for Jesus, the Great Spirit. And so, having set up for 47 minutes the introduction, mingled with Trump Eyes 2025, we can get some of the other stuff out of the way. A judge stopped Trump from firing the other agencies other than USAID. So USAID can go forward, just not the rest of the agencies. And so that's going to piss Trump off. He's going to find a way to bypass it so that he can continue the firings. Hey, we got a government shutdown coming up. Wow, what a coinkydink. And then selection of approved press. Yeah, I told you in the beginning, he's going to go after the press. It's going to be Trump press all day, every day. It's what he does. He's what he's threatened to do. Everybody forgot. Now everybody's shocked. Oh no, Trump is selecting who can be official press. This has never happened before. We never saw this coming. Dumbasses. And as we enter into the local news, the warmer weather, because I still remember doing the video live when it was so hot. When it gets hot, the mosquitoes come out at night. The mosquitoes come out at night. The mosquitoes come out. The mosquitoes come out at night. I want to hear that song again now. And so, yeah. And with mosquitoes comes the West Nile virus. Hey, we're already struggling with measles, tuberculosis, bird flu. It's the Exodus year all over again because they failed in 2020. So, God, I gotta do all this work all over again. I already proved myself. I don't need to prove myself again. And so, yeah, drought also. Southern Utah is already designated as in the red extreme drought conditions already. We did not get enough snow in the mountains. So yes, we're headed for a heartbreak. And then treatment centers are also getting busted for murdering their clients who are disabled. and drugged, getting tardive dyskinesia. Right, Oaks? Bednar, just hilarious. So if you hear on the news that Bednar is dead, you'll know why. Oaks orders Bednar to be murdered. Hitman. Hilarious. Hilarious. I never expected it to go that direction. I noticed, hey, his hand is shaking. Oh yeah, that's right, because his mom was deemed mentally retarded after her husband died. And so I guess they think that Oaks has the same DNA of mental retardation and have put him on drugs to cause the tardive dyskinesia. And then Bednar. I got a PhD in behavior. Oops. Yep. If you want things covered up and hidden, you got to do a better job than that. And there's a KSL weather girl who's now competing for my affections with the St. George lady. So cute. And both of them try to cover up the ring finger. So cute that they're so embarrassed that they're being humiliated and shamed for not being wed, not producing babies as good, faithful Mormons, Christian Mormons. Oh, dear God. So, the calendar. This is the month of Adar. Adar, correctly deciphered, translated from Paleo-Hebrew, has the prefix determinative. Should I pause for effect? Did you catch that? Shouldn't be a surprise by now. I've got the accomplishments for you to judge me with. Not just the cool little props in the background for you. Even though I'm not wearing the white shirt today, at the bedside, hint, hint. And so the A, being the first letter of the Paleo-Hebrew alphabet, is the sign of the Eye of Horus. Horus is the Christ of the Egyptians, the Messiah ben David of the Egyptians. Osiris is the Messiah ben Joseph, who was murdered by his brother, the insurrector, usurper, Set, the Brigham Young character. And so Horus, his two eyes, being a falcon hawkeye, are the Egyptian word for seer. P-T-R. Thanks to the learning of the Greeks and the language of the Egyptians from the Rosetta Stone. It's a picture language, though. It's visionary. Seer. No doubt. So the root word has to do with an aspect of Horus, the Christ, because the prefix determinative is Horus, not one of the other Egyptian characters by the other letters. And so you have a D, which is delta from the Greek. That's the shape in Paleo-Hebrew. Greek and Hebrew are very similar in origin. They came from the same core. And then the Greeks branched off and did separate additions and modifications over time. This is a pyramid. This is also a capstone. So you see Horus, he's the capstone. Osiris is the cornerstone. Joseph Smith is the cornerstone. I am the capstone. That's why the Jewish star is the two deltas of David. The circle around it is the universal symbol of the sun. You can also say the moon, but the moon in this particular case is the Star of David, eclipsing the sun. The solar eclipse, the sign of Messiah ben David, Emmanuel, Amen, El, the god Amen of the Egyptians, the sun god at noonday. And so this is also used with the symbol of a canonical bread that is cone-shaped, rather than the regular bread that is just a loaf lump shape. Visionary. So because Paleo-Hebrew is linear, there are multiple Egyptian hieroglyphs that can fit into it. And you need to know Egyptian in order to understand what the symbols all have to do with each other. Okay? Visionary. And then you have the R. There are no vowels. The A is an added vowel for pronunciation. The R is the Egyptian hieroglyph of the flag, or ensign, meaning a deity, the god of the capstone, Horus, thus the A at the beginning. This is the month of Horus. And thus, the events traditionally assigned to this month have to do with him, the man, like Moses. Okay? This is literally the greatest month of the Jews, and it's number 12. And so much so that if there is a leap year for a whole new month, they don't give it a different name. They just say Adar 2 because of the importance of Adar having to do with the Jewish Christ, who is the Egyptian Christ. And so the enemy Rome renamed this month as the enemy. Mars. Replacing the Jewish Christ, the insurrector. And so Mars is the husband of Venus, and Venus is the symbol of the inverted pentagram of Lucifer. And so as the wife, she is the church of Lucifer. Thus, Mars is Lucifer. How art thou fallen from heaven, O Russell, red, Marian, star of the sea, Mars, son of the morning, inverted pentagram of Lucifer. On 9/11, 2023. I did a whole countdown for that. was quiet. He didn't want to admit I was right. For 3 weeks, he kept it a secret. Bastard. But yes, not only is Russell Marion Mars, by baby name meaning, when Monson died, Mars, in outer space, was at the top of the scales of Libra to be the judge. As the scales of Libra, Nelson, under Brigham Young's insurrection, becomes the head of the church. Mars is now the head of the church. This is the learning of the Jews. Sign in the heavens in the likeness of things on the earth. And the Jews wrote scriptures to tell stories of the anthropomorphizing of the heavens, which are prophecies. Real simple. And so, Revelation chapter 12, notice Joseph Smith translation puts that in verse 1. But when Monson died on the 2nd of January, we have this by the Jewish author who nom de plumed as John said, and his tail, the red dragon of verse 3, drew the third part of the stars of heaven. That's the quadranted meteor showers every year. It's the third greatest star constellation, falling meteor shower thingies. And did cast them to the earth, falling stars, inverted pentagrams, Lucifer, tail of the dragon, Lucifer. Monson died. Nelson, baby name meaning Lucifer, took over. He's now the head of the church, 2nd of January, 2018. And so yes, verse 3 was the 17th of December, 2017, the 5th dark day of Hanukkah, of the Jews. Verse 1, 2, and 5, remember, it gets moved to verse 3, 23rd September 2017, the date everybody talks about for the coming of Messiah ben David. Me. And my #1 video still to this day, because the church understood what it meant and ordered YouTube to silence me, goes over that with you in advance of its coming. And I knew about it way back in Elko, Nevada, because that was what was on my screen. I found it. And so sure enough, on that day, which was a Saturday, when the women held their conference with a new Relief Society president who was the primary president, see, the enemy does not believe in my coming. And so what they are doing are self-fulfilling their interpretation of the prophecies of the Jews to prove their Christ is true. Can't do that. The prophecies happen. I parted the waters because I was prophesied to do it. I was prophesied to pour water all over the altar of Utah and then light it on fire with a lightning bolt. You missed that last year, didn't you? Did a countdown for both of those. And then they happened. But if you're thinking in terms of Christianity, whether it's Trinitarian, non-Trinitarian, or Islamic Christian, or even Orthodox Jewish Christian, all of which have been tampered with by Constantine's First Creed, you don't see it. You don't make the connection. You have denied the Jews. You are ignoring the interpretation of the Jews, of the learning of the Jews. You live in darkness and confusion, wondering, where's Jesus? Shouldn't he be here? Wasn't he supposed to be here within a week after Nelson had announced that he's coming? In a week? And he didn't? Where is Jesus? What's going on? Why are evangelicals saying that Trump is Jesus? Why is Nelson saying that Trump is Jesus? What's going on? I'm confused. Alright, so the first today. Jewish tradition. Thanks to the Ten Commandments with Charlton Heston. Wrongly claims that this was 1313 BCE under Ramses the First. Dumbasses. But what is fascinating is that they used 1313 as the number for it. The Bible is not literal history. So unless the Jewish author put in a date, you're not supposed to put in a date. But the Jewish tradition is that it's 1313 BCE. 1313. Fascinating. And you should know that as an unlucky number because of Friday the 13th, which was on Thursday in the Julian calendar. For the Knights Templar of the Holy Grail of the Jewish Christ in America, as they were attacked and they had to be scattered, and there was a group of Knights Templar who took the Egyptian gold plates to America, having purchased the land of Zion, the New Jerusalem, and buried the Egyptian gold plates in the caves in that X marks the spot for the future. That is significant, and that's why I put in that date. Otherwise, and so this is traditionally understood as when the 9th Egyptian plague of darkness occurred with the Exodus story. And so, child faith, seriously? How did you find those language dictionaries for me? What do you mean, where do I get my source information for this? You know how to do it. Google search, Jewish calendar. Ta-da! Stay away from AI. But yeah, even Wikipedia has all of the months of the Jewish calendar, as well as a general one for the Jewish calendar. That's what I go off of, because it has important dates in history as well as holy days in that month. That's why I'm making the calendar as I do. I use biblical stories, astronomy, signs in the heavens, and real historical events that occurred that have to do with the latter days. And so for the stellar thing, yeah, but I've got the Urim and Thummim. Hello, I'm the guy, remember? I have my little rocks there on the... but I don't need them. There it is. One of them's pink and one of them's blue. And so this is significant for today because of the big sign for my symbol, 8 April 2024, where X marks the spot of the previous 2 over the United States of America. Because remember, he's Mormon. And so, this is the close-up one, and then the other one is the fuller one there. Okay, so let's go to this one first. So, in advance, yesterday, wasn't it? My goodness. Went through and did snapshot of every day of the month with the close-ups that were necessary. And so everything fits in the sky in the evenings now. So I was able to do that for most of the month. And then as the moon continues outward, I have to pan outward in my Urim and Thummim. And then make adjustments on the time to get everything to fit. So the sun is being cleansed. It's been a naughty boy. You need to understand also that because we are not a theocracy in America, that government and religion are separated. That there is a dualism of prophecy here. There is the government version and then the religious version. I am the same in both. Jupiter. Yah, Peter. Peter, Seer. Remember? Egyptian. PTR. The eyes of Horus. Yah is the Hebrew God, which comes from the Egyptian Heliopolis creation story. Nut at the top, Geb at the bottom, Shu, separating them. Got to keep them separated. Can't let her get pregnant. Oops, too late. She's pregnant. So David comes in to add 5 days to the civil calendar, and then she's able to have the 5 children, among whom are Osiris and Set, and then their sister wives, Isis and Nephthys. And so the stories that the Egyptians tell have to be interpreted differently in the context that they were written. Can't use the same interpretation on other stories. You will get confused. Similarly with the Bible, similarly with the Book of Mormon. So Child Faith came into a shock of his faith bubble crisis when I told him Abraham is the enemy trying to murder Isaac at the top of the mountain of Utah. Because if Isaac is Horus, then Abraham is not the good guy. He's Set, the uncle. And thus why the Jewish author says that when they went to Egypt, Abraham turned to Sarai and said, "Tell them you're my sister." She then gets taken hostage by Pharaoh, and then she gets pregnant. Thus, Abraham is the brother of Pharaoh, who is Ammon, Father Ammon, having sex with Sarah. Sarai and Sarah. They change the names when they complete their assignments. They give them new names. And so, yeah, that's what the Jewish author is thinking. Nobody else wants to think that because they're using the first creed of Christianity to form their interpretation. So Abraham has to be the one true patriarch of all Christian religions. No. Wrong. Okay? And so both government and religion is involved with this for today. And so the government of the religion is the administration. It too is being cleansed, as Trump is cleansing by purging the government. We are told from the Book of Mormon that the federal government will fall. That's what Trump is doing. He's causing the fall of the federal government. He wants to be king. You can't be king in a three-party system or three-branch system. He's got to destroy all federal agencies, overthrow Congress, overthrow SCOTUS to become King of Kings, Lord of Lords, the great high priest, and then reign in Trump Gaza. But for the religion, this is where the church is under scrutiny right now. They're getting cleansed. There's been a mass exodus from the church. The church has been caught lying. I just exposed Bednar, lying yet again. Holland, lying yet again. Oaks, lying. They're all lying to us. And no duh, they're false. It's what they do. And so with Bednar, he's trying to manipulate people into believing that it's okay for the church to hoard tithing money, along with other money. There is no reason to hoard this much money. They're a religion. Yes, we understand you have expenses, but to have multi-trillions of dollars when the total expenditures are about $5 billion each year, and he only cut it short and said $2 billion. I caught that. He's saying that it costs less than $5 billion to run the whole church. And yet we all know just tithing alone in Ensign Peak Advisors, not the offshore bank account money, which is more, has over $200 billion now. There is no need for that much storage of wealth. You're a religion. You're not acting like it. And so when you understand that they're hoarding money, then you go to Holland's lie from the Church News, where he goes down to California, has a sacrament meeting with them, and says, "Sucks to be you, our hearts are with you." And that's it. Their lives are ruined, burned. Tithing that they've been paying faithfully their whole lives didn't get a return on their investment for fire insurance. And the church, with the representative Holland, sitting on trillions of dollars, tells them, we're not going to financially help you. Yes, you paid your tithing. Thank you. That's because they're the great and abominable church. This pisses Mormons off. This is why retention outside in third world countries is so poor. Because they're poor. They have to sell their final chicken in order to go to the temple and purchase underwear. And the church won't give them aid for being Mormon in their poverty. And so they leave. The church isn't saving me. Just like Jesus didn't save the Jews during the Roman period of time. The people south of the border know the church isn't true because of their fruit. This is the cleansing of the administration that is going on right now. This is the high priest constellation of Aquarius, pouring water out. The Egyptian hieroglyph of the same. The high priests are the false prophets. Their administration is getting purged and cleansed because they're getting exposed. All of this is in preparation for the big event of the Exodus. And so Saturn, for the religion, I've noticed tends to be the acting president of the 12. Since Oaks is the acting, or is the president of the Quorum of the 12 officially. But as a counselor, they get an acting president. You all know that. So Ballard was fitting Saturn. So when Ballard died, sure enough, Saturn's sign in the heavens confirmed it. And so now it would be Holland. Okay? So pay attention in the coming days. Because there's some stuff coming. Mercury is the messenger. Trump of the gods. That's Trump for the government, by the way. Because he was at the top of the scales of Libra after Hillary conceded. He's on the back of the white horse. Revelation 19. The latter-day war. The messenger is blowing his trump about the war as we start the month of March. Adar. Not a coincidence. And then you have Venus, also on the back of the white horse. Venus is the church, the great and abominable church, the membership of the inverted pentagram, on the keystone of the doors of the Salt Lake Temple. And yet Mormons want to remove that from the equation, just like Islam removes October 7th. Just like Christians remove the First Creed. Even though they acknowledge the First Creed, they're not going to say that that's how Christianity started. But then it's a circular reasoning fallacy to claim that Jesus was born in the Roman period time of literal history because the First Creed said so. Wrong. Can't say that. And so the moon, it's now growing because it just had its new moon. So now it's on day 2. Okay. And then I'm right there at the top of Taurus, the bull. I'm retrograding for a pregnancy period. The Apis bull of the Egyptians was a celebration ritual when the king of Egypt dies and the sun replaces him. And so the lunar disk, sometimes a solar, or a lunar, it's a solar disk, but sometimes a lunar disk is also shown there. And so when the Egyptians paint it red, you got to think in terms of moon for a lunar eclipse. But otherwise, for the most part, it's the solar disk. But again, both eyes of Horus are involved. The sun for the right eye, the moon for the left eye. The government, religion, the husband, the wife, male, female, that type of symbolism is involved. They both are together for a reason. And so Jupiter being Yah, Peter, and Yah not just coming from the Egyptian hieroglyph, but also in Paleo-Hebrew, Yah, through the name Ishmael, is the name of Yah, is the sun god. So every time you see Yah, you're supposed to go, oh, sun god, Amen, Emmanuel. So Elijah, yeah, the god Yah, sun god. So Joseph Smith's Kirtland Temple vision, Yahweh, Jehovah, the new name of Yah in Genesis chapter 2, verse 4. Then Moses. And then it's Elishua, not Elias. That's a typing error. Because it says it's the gospel of Abraham. Well, you go to the book of Abraham of Joseph's, and it says that the gospel of Abraham is the gospel of salvation. Shua, Jesus, Yahshua. But it's not Yah, it's El, God, God of salvation. And then Elijah, the God Yah. They're all the same people. Just different aspects of their nature and character. The learning of the Jews, done by Joseph Smith too, as he sets up the temple. And so I'm waiting for the fall of the great and abominable church. I'm waiting for the transfer of the assets of the church to me, so that we can then go to Zion. The transition from the Father to the Son. Son becomes the Father, Father becomes the Son. The father, king, Pharaoh, dies. The son, heir, prince, takes over as king. And so there I am, waiting, and waiting, and waiting, and waiting, and waiting. Because there's nothing I can do about the fall or the transfer. I'm waiting. I'm all ready to go for the Exodus. I've done it before. I'm waiting. And waiting. And waiting. And so Mars is Nelson, remember? Where is he? Gemini. Do you know about Gemini? The one on the right is the mortal brother who dies. The brother on the left is the one who resurrects him from the dead. And so you have Mars right smack in the middle between the two of them. Mars is Nelson. Nelson is on his deathbed. He is between life and death. We're waiting for him to die. And so when Mars begins on his journey, Nelson will die. The curse of Joseph Smith. We're waiting and waiting and waiting. He was the false prophet of the latter days, as prophesied. Okay? This is just massive. We're already at an hour and a half. And so then we'll skip to Maluma, darling. There we go. And so the pretty picture close up has the moon, brand new, merged from the womb, and Venus. They're in conjunction. So cool. All for my Urim and Thummim. Alrighty? And so, technically, I would normally wait until the day of to go over each of the different things. And since we're at an hour and a half, I can't do a detailed video for everything in this video. But there's some stuff here that makes me wonder if this is it, finally. So we'll just go over them generally, not specifically. Making occasional comments to point out significances. Because this is just intense. It had to be 2 pages because of how massive this is. It's just like everything got piled up in the final month. And in the final year for the religion. Different from the civil New Year. And the reason why I do the religion one rather than the civil one is because the Book of Mormon uses the religious calendar, as I found out. Okay, so for the second, and the months correspond with each other because of our February and the way their calendar is set up. So that makes it convenient this time around, so I don't have to keep saying the 2nd of March, which is the 1st of Adar, or whatever, all the way down. I can just say the 2nd, and it means the same for both. This was literal history. In 597 BCE, Jerusalem falls to Babylon. Zedekiah replaces Jeconiah, who was on the throne of Jerusalem. And so remember, in the first year of the reign of King Zedekiah, king of Judah, Lehi starts his ministry on the 23rd of September 2017. And then has his exodus 600 years from the time Lehi left Jerusalem, which is 4 CE, 597. 8 April, 4 CE, was an annular solar eclipse over Russia, which was a smile seen in the Middle East and Jerusalem. This is Abraham sacrificing Isaac. So could go into more detail on that, but Joseph Smith Sr. uses this in the Book of Mormon, rewritten 116 pages, to tell you about this. Because 20 years to the very day later, over the United States of America, was the big sign in heaven. And thus 2020, Joseph Smith Sr. is revealing as the Exodus year. Sure enough, it was. And so, just incredible. So I shouldn't have to be repeating this. But Oaks confessed, got leaked. That was just a test run. If they would have gotten away with it, they would have gotten away with it, and everything would have happened, and I wouldn't be here doing these videos for you. We'd be in Zion. The third, literal history event, because they're all color coordinated. with the key for you so that you can see and understand. So I'm not going to go over this any further. 515 BCE, the second Jerusalem temple is completed. So you see the symbolism? This is the latter days. This was a literal history event of the second temple being set in order and built. We're waiting for the Jerusalem Exodus, the New Jerusalem, the second temple to be built in Jerusalem, in Zion. Waiting for the fall, waiting for the transfer, waiting for the Exodus, so that we can build the second temple. The restoration, the resurrection. See how this is all playing a part in here? On the 6th, we have the first quarter moon with Jupiter. And again, remember the symbolisms. The moon is religion. It's the first quarter with Jupiter. Me, the Christ, the Mormon, the man, human, waiting for the transfer. First quarter. On the 7th, I'm probably going to burst out crying. To help you understand this, and what it means, it's traditionally understood as both the birth and death of Moses. And so the dates, not true, but still. In Matthew, they tell us the significance of this. And it's chapter 2. After telling us about the 23rd of September 2017 from Isaiah, they then tell us further details that John the Revelator talks about in Revelation chapter 12. Born in Bethlehem, which is the Star Spica, which is the house of bread. Which, did anybody catch it when I talked about Hercules in the other video the other day? No? Hercules was born in Thebes. That's in Greece. But the Greeks renamed Waset of the Egyptians to Thebes, which was also the birthplace of Ammon. And the temple of Waset is called the House of Bread, Bethlehem in Hebrew. See the connection in other pagan religions? Hercules is me. Can't you tell? The Rock and I have the same physique. I would if I wasn't attacked and locked up like Joseph of Egypt. And so then you have wise men from the east saying, "Where is he that is born King of the Jews?" This is the Mormon, remember? Me. "For we have seen his star in the east." It's the east of the United States of America. A solar eclipse in the east of the United States of America. The sign of his coming birth. And the Jews traditionally have that date as the 7th of March, Adar. I'm not going to make it through. I can't see anymore. My ocular cavities are leaking. I've done this video for you, and it wasn't until I did this month, the other day, yesterday, that I caught it. On the 7th of March, 1970, 50 years before the Exodus, which was supposed to be the Jubilee year. A solar eclipse over the United States of America on the East Coast. But this is not all. It's on the back of the white horse. For the one on 8 April 2024. But this is not all. Come on. Microsoft, leave me alone. God. There he is with Venus. There he is with close proximity to Mercury, which is right there at the loins. The birth announcement of the covenant Messiah ben David. Just incredible. But we're not done yet. Oops. The curse of Joseph Smith is also involved. Is this the corrected one? I guess I didn't want to pop it up on the screen and find out. Yes, good. So the curse of Joseph Smith is also in play here. We're waiting for Nelson. Oakes would take over. So I'm curious, is Oakes also going to be a part of the curse of Joseph Smith? And so, because of the law of PURIM, which this month is all about, which the law of PURIM comes from the book of Esther, and the book of Esther, because it was written by a Jew, is following the law of the Jews, the book of Deuteronomy. In the book of Deuteronomy in 19:19, it talks about false accusers who are to receive the punishment instead, in accordance with the particular crime being accused of. So if a false accuser condemns a person to die for murder, for example, the false accuser is then to be punished with murder. If it's theft that the false accuser is making, then the false accuser has to compensate with the item and the threefold, fourfold, whatever fold on top of that to make restitution as a false accuser. And so Joseph Smith Jr. was falsely accused. Jewish, remember? Not Christian. He was also falsely accused of many other things by Brigham Young and his Danites. Being a polygamist, being a false translator, being a thief and a murderer, and a con man. All of those were lies. And so Joseph Smith was assassinated with this false accusation, with the punishment of death, for which was on a solar eclipse on the 16th of June, which was partial, and a lunar eclipse, the 31st of May, total. And this then becomes the punishment for the false accuser, Brigham Young. And every single leader of his great and abominable church. All of them fit the pattern of the curse of Joseph Smith. No other religion, no other government, nothing but this church fits this pattern. And if you hadn't caught on yet, it's all about us, Mormons. This is why all scriptures are talking about Mormons. They're talking about Joseph Smith, they're talking about Brigham Young, they're talking about me and Nelson. There is nothing else on earth other than Trump as the government part. Every single one of them. And you probably know of the scandal of the Community of Christ and then the salamander letter of Mark Hoffman saying that Joseph Smith III is supposed to be the leader because of lineal succession, father to son. But there's also Hiram, who becomes the patriarch. And Joseph Fielding Smith Sr. became president, died under creeping death in 1901. And so, on the 18th of January, 1970, David O. McKay dies. And yes, curse of Joseph Smith. And so his successor, according to Brigham Young, became Joseph Fielding Smith Jr. Takes over on the 23rd of January, 1970. Right before the birth, right before the sign. And, oh, yeah, I did it for the death of David O. McKay. Joseph Smith Sr., Fielding Smith Sr., is not authorized, despite being a descendant of Hiram. And here he is, being the president of the church, the great and abominable church, the false prophet, taking over right before the birth. Just like the conception in 2016. After the election was decided by the government. Fascinating stuff that goes on here. Just incredible. Okay? So more on that. Obviously. And so that's what it's talking about there. I should have put Matthew chapter 2 verse 1 and 2 in that location. Running out of space. I might be able to fit it if I do MATT 2, 1 and 2. Maybe. May have to shrink this font size to get it to fit. And so on the 8th, conjunction of the moon and Mars. Is that the death date? Is it? Because it's the day before Nelson's 100 years, 6 months anniversary. On the 9th, where Venus and Mercury are in conjunction on the back of the white horse. The Feast of Esther on the 13th. Remember 1313? This is PURIM. This was the biblical account of Esther chapter 9 of the war in Persia in 474 BCE. The literal history event was in 161 BCE when the Maccabeans battled Edessa, the Battle of Edessa, where they defeated the Greek general Nicanor. A PURIM event. And then on the 13th into the 14th, we have a total full worm moon lunar eclipse at the head, the administration of Virgo, the church. And so, in Joseph Smith translation, Revelation 12:1, that's where he tells us Virgo is the church. The woman is the church. So thus, a total, full, worm, moon, lunar eclipse in Virgo, her head. She's got a worm in her brain. Just like China. Ron FK. But also the Jews and their law. Deuteronomy 28:15-68. Focus on verse 39. Hilarious. There it is. Scripture fulfillment. Is this the fall of the church? With 13:13 being raw Moses instead of the Ammon David Moseses, the 9th plague of darkness. 9 is salvation in Hebrew, Shua. And here on the 13th, Deuteronomy, talking about the worm of the church, the destruction, fall of the church. That's why I'm wondering, will I be able to cover this on this day? Or can we finally get to Zion? Because April is the Passover, the Exodus. And I've told you, there has to be time from the fall to the transfer to the Exodus. There are time needed to get things done in order properly. Because if we go in haste, nobody's going to go with me, first of all, because nobody's going to know me. Nobody's running the test. Nobody's using Jewish interpretation. You're all using Christian. You're waiting for Jesus. And so there needs to be time. Here it is. That's why I was wondering, oh dear God, Trump just took out our hopes of going to Zion because Zion is a sanctuary city. What are we going to do? You're making it harder for me now. Because it didn't happen before Trump took over. And so now that Trump has taken over, I'm going, how am I going to do this? Nobody believes me. Nobody's listening 2 hours into the video. What do? I don't know. And so, sure enough, Trump comes out and says, gold card. Yes. Thank you. Awesome. The rest of the world is laughing at Trump. A gold card for immigration? That's stupid. It's not about you. It's about Mormons. Mormons have to come to Zion, where X marks the spot, where the Knights Templar buried the Egyptian gold treasure plates, having purchased the land. To the west of Little Egypt. It's just incredible. But yet, without the fall, without the transfer, I'm still waiting. I'm getting anxious and bored. Nobody appreciates me. I quit. Okay? So this is why I'm doing this now, today. Because I don't know if the likeness of things on the earth will happen. Or if this is just going to be yet another, oh, fun. Scripture and sign in the heavens. Yay. Great. Okay. Whatever. So how many more years do I have to wait? So on the 14th, literal history, 474 BCE, is the Purim victory in Persia, where the Jews go back to Jerusalem under the orders to build their temple. Section 133 call out. This is all being set up perfectly in the calendar. I've been telling you this before I saw the calendar. And here it is. You've got Mars waiting for the curse of Joseph Smith. You've got the fall of the church. Then you have the call out from me, meaning the transfer. And so apparently that would mean the fall and the transfer all happen at once, which is interesting. And then the call out, section 133, that I repeated again for you yesterday, going over it. You got to wait for that call. And the 14th is, hey, Penny Lane, we are in March. It's Friday. So yeah, Thursday and Friday. 13th and 14th. Fascinating, because that's Thursday is their meeting day when they hold their meetings every week. Fascinating. Fascinating. Interesting. Okay. All right, and so 14th and 15th all have to do with Purim. There are a number of Purims that the Jews have. And so you've got Purim Katan, you have the Purim Persia, you have the regular calendar Purim from Esther, you have the Purim victory in Shushan, and you have the Purim of Joshua, all involved on the celebration of Purim on the 14th and the 15th. And the 15th is also significant. Grandpa's birthday, Grandpa Sun God. But also Joseph Smith becoming a master mason on the 15th. Because, yep, Purim for the birthday on the 17th. But first you have the moon occulting the Bethlehem star of Spica and Virgo on the 16th. Because that's, isn't that? Nope. Curious. Oh, there it is. Friday the 14th is the new moon. Yeah, and that's why the 15th. Yeah, that's right. Okay. So yeah, we just had the new moon, or the full moon. And now it's occulting, eclipsing the Bethlehem star, the birth star. In 2020, the Exodus year, the day after my birthday, the big birthday that everybody knew about, was the Magna earthquake, knocking the horn out of Moroni. told you it was bigger than you realized, and everybody was waiting for a bigger earthquake to happen. This wasn't big enough. We want a bigger one. You are being told, Mormons, in the learning of the Jews. And you're missing it. And so here you go again. Don't miss it. Okay? And so, boom, my birthday, the feast of Yom Adar. The Jews knew. And so, yes, it's also the death of St. Patrick. Remember, birth and death of Moses on the 7th? Because of the solar eclipse is the death sign, but it's my birth sign. It's me sign. And so, yes, St. Patrick, likewise, it was the sun god druids of England, of which I am a direct descendant of, who told that one guy who wrote the story of St. Patrick, and then the Catholic Church then said, oh, okay, well, we'll make him a saint. And they used his death day instead of his birthday for the celebration. And I have 1839. That's not supposed to be brown. It's supposed to be red with Brigham Young. Oops. And 1842 should probably be moved down with Joseph Smith. Oh my God. Error alert. Error. But anyway. And so this is literal history event of 522 BCE. This is the exodus of the Jews from Persia to Jerusalem. Do you see this, Mormons? You have the fall of the great and abominable church, the transfer to me, and the exodus. Even though Passover isn't until April. The week before, Oaks sent you a death threat to murder you because you look forward to the resurrection of Jesus on the 20th. You're all gonna die. You need to take his threat seriously. He is the enemy. He said he's orchestrating all of this. And so, the law of PURIM, the curse of Joseph Smith, all presidents dying under the sun shall be darkened, moon turned to blood, stars falling from heaven. And here you have, in 1839, Joseph Smith is still in Liberty Jail. The church lies to us at the pulpit of conference, saying that Thomas B. Marsh was excommunicated by Joseph Smith for defending his wife's honor. The Danites love to frame and blame women, too. Brigham Young apparently sent a letter to Thomas B. Marsh saying, come and be excommunicated. Brigham Young has no authority. Joseph Smith is locked up. It wasn't over milk of his wife and defending her honor. It was because Thomas B. Marsh signed an affidavit to the governor of Missouri that resulted in the extermination order of the Mormons, because the Danites told Thomas B. Marsh that Joseph was in charge of the Danites. And yet, the year before Brigham Young died, he comes out with section 117, verse 11, in which he confesses, yet Joseph was never the leader of the Danites. It was me. And so thus, on the 17th of March, is the transfer made to the rightful leader of Mormons. All right here. have no idea how long I've been waiting. How much I've sacrificed. And I only tease you by talking about daddy-daughter shows. Then we have (1842). Joseph Smith sets up the Relief Society. The women who give birth, who would give birth to the Christ in the future. Priesthood office, as well as priesthood. The church lied. And so I'm concerned about the flashing lights on the camera. I hope this video is good quality at least, even though you'll hear the background noise and all that, hear the plane, but we're going to stop here and then I'll continue on with the rest of the month. Okay, 20th is the March equinox. I think we even change our time on the 7th, don't we, or is it the 9th? Okay, it's not this weekend. Daylight savings time begins 9th. Yeah, next weekend. But not only is it the March equinox, the moon is now eclipsing Antares in Scorpio. 22nd, third quarter moon in Sagittarius. 23rd. 1312 BCE according to Jewish tradition, not literal history. 1312, not 1313. So a year later, the tabernacle is pitched. Tent cities. So if the 17th is the Exodus, when we all start to leave, it gives us 6 days to finally all get to the location, having paid the gold card price to get you there, in which the 7 days of training begin. As that's the setting up for the command center where you all come, and it's tent because it's not built yet. The second temple has not been built yet. And so yeah, 7 days of training. It's everybody coming who wants to come to Zion. I did that video yesterday. Pay attention. Don't ignore me because you don't believe, because you're waiting for Jesus. You won't get to come to Zion anyway, so it doesn't matter. And so yeah, apparently 7 days of checking everybody in, getting everybody situated, and preparing for the building of Zion from that point. This would work perfectly. Just as I envisioned it and told you about it yesterday, here it is. I find out about it, and I'm doing the video for you. All in the order that I told you, all in the time frame that I told you needed to be made. Perfect. But now the enemy has to do their part and fall. Otherwise, this is all ruined. 25th. This is literal history that is also captured in Scripture, for being accurate. 561 BCE. Whoops, didn't put BCE. The death of Nebuchadnezzar. So the sign for Nelson, is this the sign for Oaks? But we're already in Zion. And so, yeah, he doesn't get to come to Zion. He stays behind. Apparently, that could be his death, Oaks. Just saying. Just saying. But we're not done yet. 27th is the death of Trump. 561 BCE also. Nebuchadnezzar and Trump died together in Babylonian captivity. See, Trump is the king throughout all of the scriptures. He is Herod, he is Pharaoh, he is Zedekiah, he is the one in Isaiah, he is Herod in Matthew. All the same guy, Trump, because he's the president of the United States of America in 2017. And so, 561, he dies on the 27th of Adar, which is the 27th of March. So we'll see. He's pissing off a lot of people. But notice it's after I get the gold card. Get you to Zion. And then boom, he dies. And the fall of the federal government. And so I don't know, maybe it won't be the 4th on Tuesday. So I don't know. Because what's going to happen? Trump's going to gut everything. Federal government could shut down on the 14th. So when Trump dies in his presidency, J.D. Vance takes over, but he doesn't know Trump's will. He's not going to have the strength to take over. And so there's going to be more chaos in the federal government. Democrats will be able to think they've got more power to exert over J.D. Vance. He is not Trump. So yeah, that'll be fascinating to see what will happen, but it's unclear if we will be able to see what will happen. 28th, the moon is there with Saturn. Bye-bye, Holland. Bye-bye. I don't know, but we'll see. I'd have to go over the sign in the heavens to do further explanation for that, but like I said, we're trying to finish up. We're over 2 hours. 29th, last day of Adar. And then last day of the religious Jewish year of 5785. Okay. And so, sure enough, the partial solar eclipse on the back of the white horse, Pegasus. The sign. The fall of the government. PURIM, fall of the church. Solar eclipse, fall of the government. And so yes, it's just 2 days after the death of Trump. Fall of the government. Interesting. But again, I'd have to do more analysis of the signs in the heavens. But these are the prophecies. These are the dates. These are the traditions of the Jews, even though they don't understand what it means. And so the new year, Nisan, 5786, for the religious calendar, not the civil calendar. That's in Tishri, right? And so the first of Nisan is the 30th of March, and that's why I put it in here. And that's the Jewish religious calendar New Year's Day. All right? And so this is the Curse of Joseph Smith watch that I put at the bottom, because we're still waiting for it. We don't know a date yet. We have signs in the heavens, we have scripture prophecies, we have traditional Jewish dates in the calendar, but we're still waiting. And then the T Corona Borealis explosion watch. I did that video when I first heard about it and put it in the previous month's calendar. Astronomers knew that 80 years ago there was this explosion of the T Corona Borealis. There are two stars, and the one superstar sucks all of the energy from the smaller star, and then every 80 years they are aware of the tradition that is spoken of, that it explodes, the bigger one explodes, and then it starts all over again for another 80 years. Astronomers did not get it recorded 80 years ago, and so they're waiting for this event to make sure to get it recorded so that they can do the analysis and the research and then start making predictions for the next 80 years to see if there's a pattern. But they have to do the analysis of the event, do the measurements and the calculations and all that. And so that's what we're waiting for on that one. And so it's at the crown, Corona Borealis, of the serpent, which Revelation chapter 12. So when it happens, we'll see the context of Scripture and if it corresponds or not. Alrighty, so there you go. Dear God, this is massive. You do not want to dismiss this because you believe in Christian Jesus. Alrighty.